One of the most mysterious scenes of the Torah is when the Eternal sends Moses to take a bronze serpent because of the people's sin by having blasphemed. It was, of course, a shadow of the Messiah who would become sin represented by the serpent, and who would bear the curse for the people. Yeshua humbled himself to the lowest, as we read, curse made for us in Galatians 3:13. Messiah liberated us from Torah's curse, having become a curse for us, for it is written, cursed is everyone who hangs in a tree. And of course, the snake that is good later misrepresented. It was taken as a symbol, as a universal symbol for world faith and speaking a system that became of a famous snake interviewing and later medicine, and was adopted into the medicine. However, where those who continue to worship the snake and all truth, it was destroyed, the symbol remains today as a symbol of healing and health for the entire contemporary world. Besides that, much darker messages are written involving generic healing manipulation and the offspring of the snake. So here on the left, you can see the image that World Health Organization and most of the World Health systems around the world that you can have, and it's a Caduceus of the Greek. It's a Greek mythology, or pantheon. The staff of a rod Asclepius is one of the Greeks. Is for the Greeks, or Asclepius for the Roman, and the ancient symbol associated with the Greek god Asclepius, in which the healing of the sick truth medicine. It's a rod which is coiled serpent, representing the Greek god Asclepius, or Asclepius for the Romans. In Greek mythology, Asclepius had a rod that has the power to cure all diseases. Who are we voting to? Who are we looking for to see our medicines? So we're gonna read on the there shall not be found in Deuteronomy 18:10-14. There shall not be found on you one of who passes his son or his daughter through the fire, one that uses divination, or observer of clouds, or one of fortune telling, spellcaster, or magic charmer, or one consulting spirits, or a wizard, or one communicating with the dead. For all doing these things are abomination to the Eternal, and because of these filthy acts, Elohim, Eternal, your Elohim, is expelling these nations before you. You shall be perfect, Tamim, with Eternal, your Elohim. For these nations, whom you shall expel, listen to observers of clouds, and those divining. But as to you, Eternal Elohim has not given to you to do so. And why? Because all of this indeed exists, and when Eternal gives these commandments and prohibit all series of things, and it does because it truly exists. It's obviously it knows that it's ruled by dark forces, hidden satanic forces, and obviously what the Eternal was doing is to protect us from his town. Okay, so all the symbols currently that we talk about, we're going to talk about too right now, they're awarded power. They award them certain protections to carry out certain actions, and that's why the Eternal does prohibit any contact with this type of systems. It says, therefore you shall be carefully to be on guard yourselves, for those have not seen any likeness in the day of the Eternal spoke to you in Horeb, or in the midst of the fire, lest you act corruptly and make yourself a carved image, a likeness of a figure, the shape of a male or female, the shape of any animal in the earth, the shape of any winged bird that flies in the heavens, the shape of any creeping thing in the ground, and the shape of any fish in the waters under the earth, and that you not lift your eyes towards the heavens, and shall see the sun, and the moon, and the stars, all the hosts of the heavens, and you be drawn away and worship them, and serve them, which Eternal your Elohim has allotted to the peoples under the heavens. Deuteronomy 4:15 to 19. So here are abbreviations that without any figure, you saw that the Eternal spoke with you. If the Eternal has no figure, we cannot associate him with or represent him with nothing. And if he says that all of the Eternal, that the Eternal has granted this to all the peoples under the skies, that is they, they who don't look yourself for charms or protection of what they want, they do. Well, they that's for them, that's for the people under the heavens, but not for the Israel people, who actually in Numbers, as the Eternal says, the word the same as with Balaam, and reminds him the sorcerer who was sent to curse the people of Israel, and he was asked to curse the people of Israel. In his own words, he said that Israel, there's no spell. For Israel, there's no spell. There is no omen. Let's see, for this word, the people, this caster people, this occultist people use this word omen, because Israel has one to protect him, which is the Eternal. One of the most critical moments in Israel history was the Solomon apostasy by marrying foreign women and opening the door to stronger paganism and Satanism after Israel had achieved success and blessing through his King David. Possibly it was the moment where mysticism and religious esotericism entered. And another moment that was when they returned from exile. They brought with them Babylonian paganism, and those who remained contaminated the holiness of Torah. So the Star of David, or rather is called the Solomon's Shield. So Star of David is also called the Star of David, or Magen David. Magen David is also David's shield, or Solomon's shield, is one of the symbols of Judaism, although traditionally the religious hallmark of the Jewish cult was the menorah. The emblem, who made up of two overlapping equilateral triangles forming a six-pointed star, was frequently used to distinguish communities and districts reserved for Jews, or the Jewish quarters that we were talking about in previous chapters of the Khazars, from the age of average Khazars. With the establishment of the State of Israel, the Star of David on the blue and white flag became the symbol of the state. You can find this over Wikipedia. That's one of the good results over Wikipedia. What is not said that both the hexagram and the pentagram are the most important Kabbalistic symbols or Babylonian witchcraft. It is the talisman of Saturn. Saturn is another name for Lucifer, and is used to conjure demons and perform incarnations and spells. In some of the ceremonies, it is endemned a circle into the center in which the participant stands to protect himself, apparently or supposedly, from other evil spirits. The paradox is that many times these symbols appeared in Jewish synagogues and Christian churches, even in rock groups, tattoos, rings, and earrings. And I myself had experience to see this in the music cartels and presentations and concerts. You can see it almost everywhere. It's interesting to know that the service in Israel yields quite revealing results. Of 70% of those surveyed have no idea of the origin of the symbol, and most of them are not interested of knowing. While 20% do know this origin, it is foreign to Torah, but they do not attach importance to it. And 10% know the origin and have resigned and protested against its emblem. So what we can see, this is a very, very interesting pattern, and curiously reflected to many other aspects in the life of faith of people in different cultures and religions regarding that they believe and carry. That the great majorities only decide based on feelings and emotions and not conviction based on research. And we can see a very clear example in the Christianism with the Constantine cross. So, have another one. Next, we will show a mystical graphic evidence on how the symbol is being as old as the oldest religion as the Babylonian. In the scriptures, it seems to be related to the star of Molech, or Kim Raphan mentioned in Amos 5:26. Rather, you bore the tabernacle of your Molech or Kim, your idols of the star of your God, what you have made. And we have to remember that Amos is talking about almost 700 years before Mashiach, which is remembered again in Acts 7:43. By whom? But Stephen, who? But you have brought the tabernacle of Molech and the star of your God, Remphan, figure that you made to worship them, so I will transport you beyond Babylon. This star appears in both texts, and in fact it's the same text related to everything. Seems to indicate, according to the Refan inquiries, even more, if you can investigate yourself, that the stars of Remphan is going to realize which none other but the hexagram, okay? Which this one is no other star but the hexagram. So, which give us a great contribution to know that scripture in this star, it does come from, where does it come from, and the importance of those Jews in that time. Okay, what I'm going to do is to do more in this show more of this evidence regarding the star. Well, and then finally decide if we should use it or no. It's I intend more than demonstrate that the star does not appear nowhere in the Torah. We see that the Eternal command Moses to make different objects, different measurements, different materials, but never a star appears on the star of Remphan, saying that okay. It's important to know this information, but finally everyone is going to make all entire exposure and that we have shown till now, all the 5 chapters, and the rest of all the ones that we're gonna see, and taking their own to be able and deep in subject to do your own homework and research, analysis, study, reading, so you can get your conclusion. Okay, all I do is to exposure them and the data and what I've come with the conclusions of these 12 years, especially with this topic of Zionism and everything behind it. Okay, you can just show that judgment, and in judging by all of this, by what I've seen and in writing in the scriptures, according to what the true holiness is, we yield this result of that what happened in the last 130 years, 140 years or so is nothing but a deception of the enemy. Okay, very ancient, mystical, and unbiblical, and possibly satanic symbol. So you're gonna see this symbol in different resources in different places. You can see it here with crosses and church windows. You can see it in different places, and there's no why they mostly have this idolatry inside of them, like this Egyptian figures, or most like satanic figures inside of them. We're gonna see exactly why is it this very old symbol and not biblical is like the David image found in different cultures, in different very old temples, and that appears here in some Egyptian towns. It's supposed to be this picture. Here it comes surrounded by Latin crosses, and we see all of this. So this is how the talisman are shown within esoteric environment. The esoteric environment. So mostly we knew before from a previous study the esoteric atmosphere between the talisman of Saturn. Just the talisman Saturn is what we can see here. Of those Hebrew letters, and rather they come from the Aramaic, is what the use of Chaldean language used it in Babylon to do the spells. Remember that the letters are the same, but the language change. One is Hebrew and the other one is Aramaic. Okay, and that's Saturn's talisman that you can see even finding over the internet is well known for them, and you can buy it to the corroborated that anyway you can pass through this esoteric stores, and it's well known. It's a very symbol represented into oscurantism. So now here put a dollar all the talisman they use in esotericism, not just the Saturn, but they worship also this uses as a talisman to invoke different kind of protections or sigils, they call it, through the esotericism. So it's one for every single planet. You're gonna see here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 planets, or 6, or one for each point and one in the center, whatever they might use it, or the sigil between the months that they can see according to the moon or position of the sun. So they can invoke their things, whatever they do. Here I'm gonna start with the hexagram, and this is from the book The Golden Dawn, volume 3, and they show, this is a very occultist book. They show the hexagram is a powerful symbol representing the operation of the 7 planets and the presence of the sefirot and the letters of the 7-letter name, whatever. The hexagram is sometimes called the signet of symbol of macrocosm. Just a pentagram is called a signet star, symbol of the microcosm. Okay, so every single one has a weight for invoke the spirits or the protections. They're sigils, they call it. So that's more from the pentagram. This is the second image from the same book. From the duration of the planets, one of each angle is its hexagram. Should you see the reason of sympathy existing between each superior planet and the certain inferior planet. That is how which is exactly opposite to the hexagram, and this is a result of that the triangle they're invoking and banishing hexagrams counterchange, whatever. In the supreme riddle, the hexagram designs at 5 or 6 gray are given, but not those for grays in the first order, depending on what they have. No, more down says, no, also the sephira are not to be invoked on every single occasion, but only with due care and solemnity. Of all of these forces, the Keter and Chokhmah demand the greatest purity and solemnity in the heart and minds of him who would penetrate the mysteries. It means they have to be a strong wizard, something like that. One more, and this is started with a pentagram. The pentagram is a powerful symbol representing the operation of eternal spirit in the 4 elements and their divine presence. Or left there's a name, that name, Yeshua. Again, we're gonna see about what this name again, or which is the same thing as Joshua or Joshua or Jahashua, is not Joshua. The elements themselves is a symbol of the cross as governed by the eternal, but the letter Shin representing the Ruach of eternal, Yeshua or Jehabashah. But anyway, when the letter Shin is placed between ruling the earth and the other 2 elements are the tetragrammaton. We're gonna see about that a little bit further. So this, see again, that is the difference between a 6-pointing star, the 5 pointing star, pentagram and hexagram, is not other just by the invocations to the different planets. Okay, so here we're gonna see the circle snake, which is also very well used into the esotericism chops. I forgot about the name. This snake is always stuck in Satan, and how he's always talking about Satan. We see how they protected it here and projected here. Sorry, and this snake, what is here, it seems that what they are is a little dragon, where the other image is a single, as you can see it, maybe 2 biting themselves. That was biting his tail, but it represents immortality. That says that Satan is one who gives immortality, and well, it's a very, very dark image and representations. Okay. Alchemists, they show this is very well used into alchemy. Okay, that's why they see these different superior and inferior levels of the elements, and the mixture into one point, which is showing the eternal projection and circulation of elements. But what will be its origin and how it's greater? For thousands of years, human civilization has been visited and disrupted by beings who are identified in the Torah as the fallen or Nephilim, which is also referred to the prophetic books when the archangel known as Lucifer, or the giver of light as his names, also known as Satan or adversary, attempts against the Creator and creates his own creation outside the divine will. According to the past civilizations, men were visited by extraterrestrial beings who taught men all kinds of science, just as Genesis, in the first book of Moses, says. These beings delved into teaching and worship the stars to themselves. So we see this ancient Sumerian clay in where this giant seems to be here. The men come here and this representation of the sun. They can see already it is an all since the representations of the stars and the planets, and we are connected and equal that we already have seen regarding the fallen and the Bible in ancient cultures. Okay. All the ancient cults were related to the worship of the sun, the moon, the stars, in addition to the fact that the fallen angels were represented in the form of deities that they ended up worshiping. In the last one, I have the Egyptian one with all the deities and what they represented. And you can see it in there. And in the right one, on the right side, you can see the 7 major Akkadian deities. It's a Akkadian cylinder seal dating up to 2300 BC before Mashiach. Inanna, Utu, Enki, and Ishmud. So in Sumerian mythology, it's a study of spiritual and this is taken from here, the Sumerian mythology, the image of an literal achievement of the 3rd millennium BC, revised edition, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. You can find it in there. Much of the knowledge they received from fallen angels had to do with a powerful and almost inevitable way of knowing the future through divination, visualization, and numerology, through the spells and geometric shapes to make invocations to demons and fallen spirits. This is a box of one esoteric shop where you can purchase these kind of things, and it's a proof of the symbols they use. You see a little image here, a little Lilith incense, and is holding into each of their hands the sun and the moon. How about that? Since times past, man also wanted to know the future, the mysteries of the universe, to decipher the questions and hidden things that has for fallen angels the easiest and the most powerful way to attract and tempt man and divert him from the knowledge of the true one. This allowed man to be seduced by such knowledge and the truth to be confused. The critical point of man, and especially for Israel, was in the time of the King Solomon, because the Eternal had chosen Israel to be a people different from other people. But this misery came when Solomon sinned. It's not strange for anyone to know who the same Bible show how Solomon was upset and because of sin by marrying many women. He has also allowed them to introduce the most terrible idolatries in Israel. And when Solomon was old, we're gonna read in this chapter. We're gonna remember this chapter in 1 Kings 11:4-8. And when Solomon was old, his woman inclined his heart after other gods, other Elohim, and his heart was not perfect with the Eternal, at the heart of his father David. For Solomon followed Ashtoreth, Semiramis, Ishtar, goddess of the Sidonians, and Milcom, abominable idol of the Ammonites. And Solomon did evil in the eyes of the Eternal, and did not follow the Lord as it dutifully of David his father. Then Solomon built high place to Chemosh, the abominable idol of Moab, and the mountain opposite to Jerusalem, and for Molech, the abominable idol of the children of Ammon. So he did this for all his foreign women who burned incense and offered sacrifice to other gods. We're gonna see here the actual image the actual Roman Catholic Church has placed in one of their places, and there we have a big statue of Moloch, and you can see in the middle of his chest the famous 6-point star with an eye in the middle. Okay, let's go back to this point where everything has to do with will have to do with the rebellion of Israel and apostasy with the Star of David. The Star of David is a recent acquisition by Judaism in the last decade, by the 1800s. It was adopted as a Jewish symbol for the future state of Israel, or we know as the Israeli state today. The symbol was actually introduced by the medieval Kabbalistic teachings that were introduced into mystical interpretations and esoteric biblical writings, and that they were on the Chaldean Babylonian origin, which connect us with the ancient religion of Nimrod. In Kabalah, these symbols appear in the 5-pointed star known as the Star of David, the 6-pointed as the Seal of Solomon, and 8-pointed as the Star of Eve. The hexagon is a symbol for the Babylonian mystery school that has been adopted by the Jewish mysticism, or the Kabbalistic Jewish mystery school, and therefore they were the first Jews to use this symbol. The true name of the symbol is the double interlocking triangle of Solomon, or the Seal of Solomon. It also is the sign of the Vishnu god in the Hindu religion, or the god of the generation. You can see here in the right a representation of Shiva and Shakti. Both together come the Murugan, and the 6-pointed star in the X-arm is one of the oldest universal symbols that goes through the way back to ancient India, being known as the Shatkana, which represented the union of a masculine and feminine energies of the soul. Listen to this. This unification gives the birth to Murungan Araka Krishna, or Skanda, or Skadgyeya, or Satanat Kumara, being a complete androgynous representation of the magnum opus, or what is known the Godhead. He was sometimes described having 6 heads, defining 6 cities, or powers that are bestowed to one or over course of the spiritual development. His heads also represent the 6 syllables of the mantra whatever, denoting that God is the primal sound. Look how pagan this sound is. It's also a syllable of the sun, which is associated with the 666, the number of life and perfection. This is known into the Hindu theology. All right. Keep going further. Wayne B. Chandler wrote in his book Ancient Future on page 69, in India, the 6-pointed star is called the Star of Vishnu, reflecting the cosmic union between Kali and Shiva, the male and female formers of the universe. So here are the start of the creation by the Egyptians as well. And it wrote down in there, it's an ancient Hindu emblem called Sri Yantra. The circle represents the world in which the living exists. The triangle pointing upwards shows the male creator, and the triangle with the apex downwards, the female, distinct yet united. These have a word within themselves in which the male is uppermost, the central circle image be the worship is placed. When used, the figure is placed in the ground with Brahma to the east and Lakshmi to the west. Both of them are Hindu gods too. Then a relic of the saint to the image of Buddha, like the modern papal crucifix, is added to the shrine of the worship of the complete. And it has now been adopted in Christian churches and the Freemasons lodges, some to the cross. It will be noticed that the male emblem point to the rising sun, and the female triangles point to the setting sun. When the earth seems to receive the god into her couch, Source Ancient Pagan and Modern Christian Symbolism by Thomas Ayman, New York, 1875. You have it seen here on the right bottom, the figure 33 on page 26. So, these geometric figures are known in symbols which invoke evil forces, spells, and currently known as connected directly with the Sumerians. They are so-called sacred geometry. in different cultures as well. So we're gonna see another one. Uh, uh, the sacred geometry, which represent the powers of the fallen, used to make Eve fall into the Garden of Eden. The sacred geometry is connected to the flower of life and the cube of the archangel known as Metatron, twin brother, which according to Kabalah, he extracted from his own soul to create all this and develop it into Greek philosophy. Here representing the geometry of Plato's polyhedral that are nothing other than the souls of Metatron's soul. So you can see here from the third, the tetrahedral, then the cube, the octahedron, the crosahedron, the decahedron, and then a Merkaba. In the middle is going to be the getaway between the different dimensions. Okay, so the sacred geometry in quotes is a connection between the flower life and the cube, like we read in the Archangel Metatron, twin brother, with sandal form, in which according to Kabalah has extracted his own and create all of this. So in here we see the famous polyhedra, the Plato. Do not believe that he really did not know geometry and shapes and math and all of that in the Greek philosophy was based on religion, and what they were trying to understand is the hidden mysteries of the famous sacred geometry. Okay, so when they come together and all of this gives give us here's what you know, the famous Metatron. I'm gonna next picture, and this is the esoteric interpretation of Archangel Metatron, showing the Metatron cube, which is extracted from his soul to create this origin of sacred geometry. So the important to see some of these things that will connect us to the famous hexagram, and then in the start of David. Okay, so you guys can look it through the internet at this representation of the Archangel Metatron or Arizal phone. We'll find something similar. Okay, within mystic Kabbalistic Judaism, they believe this is Enoch, and they said that it's not happened to make this archangel of light. That Enoch came to be an archangel of light, and this figure is the famous sacred geometry that what you can see in the top of him, and it's already here and the hexagram, if you can notice it, and with the equilateral triangles intertwined and geometric figures that are going to see how they gone to conclusion. This piece shows the divine development of geometry, and this is the theory of the golden number. With this represents all the creation that actually is known like the Fibonacci numbers, or the numbers of Fibonacci. Another interesting thing that currently has discovered that the human being is created in spectacular ways as proportions and dimensions all throughout creation. It's a number of formulas, and we have represented here on this curve. Okay, so because we saw in the beginning of Genesis first that the Eternal emanates Mashiach and gives shape, and then Mashiach does all the heavenly hosts, and we saw in our timeline that it sets one of the tallest, and who is the great cherub, that was Lucifer. With him, he is the co-creator, participates on creation. Obviously, he knows all the geometry and says some these numbers and math, and indeed the mathematician universe are pure numbers that metaphysicians and the universe and energy and combine are true, and geometries. Obviously, the universe is geometry, and what is related to such knowledge from the fallen angels. So here represents the fruit of flower of life, and this knowledge was transmitted from the Sumerian civilizations. You can see here in different representations, different cultures. You can see it's a ball here in the number 3 from Chinese. Mostly of the other ones are from between Greek, Sumerians, and Arabians. In the bottom right, you can see this is Sri Yantra that we talked about already, and this is start of the perpetual life and the creation. In the little bit of the left, you see the Metatron, and the right one is another representation of it. How interesting is here is how The flower of life, this is all the symbol ever found in the Sumerians is described here. Around here, there's the slides and also appear in famous circles and a representation of books of Sumerian culture and religion based on made of pure circles that you start with 1 and then 11 around it, and they're in the center. From there surrounding, and you can see that is the true hexagram, and this hexagon is also the same as the three-dimensional that you can draw here. Now, down either here it seems it's a cube. Realize the part in the top to the base, and if you draw a line in here, and you obtain a cube. Right part of the left is part of the cube. So that's here another of the hexagon is always present and always related to the fruit of life, or the flower of life, which it's called in the Kabalah the cube of Metatron. The hexagon is always presented not related to the flower of life, and it's called the Kabalah the Metatron's cube, one of the ones that, as we said, extracted from his own soul to be able to create. Here's a presentation of the Merkavahs and Hebrew chariot of fire that says in the Kabbalah that the transport angels and archangels. Okay, in fact, when you talk about Elias, and you remember that the day when he goes in a chariot of fire, they call it, this is a Merkavah. This is a chariot of fire, and literally in the Bible is written. Well, those Kabbalistic mystical Jews believe that this chariot of fire is nothing but the hexagram. That is like this, a three-dimensional, okay, and is capable of traveling between the time and space. And we're going here to see one more geometric shape, and I'm gonna go ahead and talk a little bit of this famous painting, Leonardo da Vinci. And later on we're gonna see the trace of a man in a circle on a square, like proportions are defined. So we're here to see outright the representation of the true esoteric Hinduism, the flower of life, the cube, the eye, and all the chakras. See the lotus flower, etc., etc., etc. So that's another representation of the Hinduism of religion, representation of where it comes from, mostly of it. In India, the 6-pointed star is known as Sri Yantra, the Hinduism. That's the other representation of the star. The supreme light is another coincidence that the name is very similar to another name of Satan, in turn, Yantra, instrument or machine. So that Surya Yantra means instrument of supreme light. Other words, instrument of Satan. Can the instrument of Satan be given by the Eternal? Well, never. Never. So if you wonder why Hinduism have so many deities and is connected to spiritual things, well, it's precisely because those deities, all those entities that we can finally understand what they are, fallen angels, they were fallen beings that they approached from different cultures. They give them results, they give them knowledge, they give them elevation, and believe that it was aligning. And that's why everything finally connected as such life is spiritual life, meditation, and here they come as religions like the Krishna today. Nothing like Hinduism itself. Well, Buddha is another stream from them. Well, they don't believe in none, to argue, but because they give just this elevation, this aligning is known within the religious context as illumination, that supposedly makes them reach a high consciousness, and that apparently makes them reach and connect with the cosmic force. If they call him with the supreme energy, that's why they do the yoga. Actually, when they wanted yoga, they do yoga, and it's known that realize that pyramid shape in the pyramid. Okay, so they do yoga. It's a position that they may of thinking, so they can reach a connection with they say with the cosmic force, with the universal force. And well, that give them the results, and it's for so many deities. So that's talking about the Surya Yantra. The six-pointed star appears in the I Ching of Book of Changers, one of the oldest Chinese documents where the six-pointed star appears and contains the divinatory system comparable to geometry, and Fu Shi, one of the first rulers of China between 2850 before Mashiach and 2750 before Mashiach, said that he received it by supernatural revelation the trigrams organized it as hexagrams. You can see both the image bound down there and the trigram of I Ching, that we can see that long before the exodus of Israel from the land of Egypt, the six-pointed star was used in China for divinatory purposes. And you can search all the internet, all of this information as well. So, very interesting. In 18 to 600 before Mashiach, the six-pointed star was used as a symbol to represent the art of alchemy, and it was formed by joining the triangle of water with the triangle of fire. Next, we can see the triangle of water and fire on alchemy, and when those are placed on the top of the other, the six-pointed star or shield of David, or Solomon's seal, is formed. The six-pointer is a symbol of alchemy. So we can see from the mystical school of Horus in the Egyptians, they use also the alchemy into the spells and castings. So it's something is well known to today's day also, the alchemical symbols. Between the alchemical symbols and sigils, they involve the 9 regions of the planets, which they attribute some kind of energy of protection, and depending of the time of the year or the day. Okay. So in case of Sumerians are those ones who we're gonna the more talk about this, more information. They have the most sacred geometry in Sumerians. They are the ones who made the contributions to the cube of Metatron, and here we see a representation of a stone engravings, the hexagram representing nothing less than the sun, which is the sun and the planets around it. And here we're saying projecting a pyramid coming down. Okay, he took around of the spirit, so they call him here. So here is also with several images of Sumerians, like they represented the flower of life. There are lines in three-dimensional, and they all form a cube of their dimensions and all the centers. And if you connect the centers from the cube, here it is, and here is the left side in the form of the circles. There's another one here from the Sumerians from this book, and it's Nimrud. Remember, it was a city built time before Nimrod from another king, a Syrian city between approximately 1300s to the 16 BC before Mashiach. The Syrian king Shalmaneser in the 1200s to 1245 built Kalu, or called Nimrud, into a major city during the Middle Assyrian Empire. And you're gonna see between these empires, they have all these fragments. It's called the Ivory Plaques, or the Ivory. It's called the Nimrod and Ivory remains. So this Ivory Plaque is a fragment for Ivory Plaque in the Iraq Museum in Baghdad. It's from the Nimrod city from 800 to 700 before Mashiach. Next one from Greece. The Mycenaean religions believe seems to have very, very similar of those other ancient civilizations of the time, and share two important characteristics: polytheistic and syncretism. Polytheism is a belief that many gods, or syncretism reflects a willingness to add foreign gods into a belief system, even if they had if the new additions don't really exactly fit. When the Mycenaeans first arrived to the Aegean, they likely believed in the pantheon of gods hidden by supreme sky god, common into the Indo-European people. The all Indo-European people, they believe in one supreme god, but in other lower gods. His name was Dyaus, in which in Greek became Zeus. Following contact with Minoars and the earth goddesses, These goddesses were incorporated into pantheon, and that is likely the path followed by Hera, Artemis, and Aphrodite. This is taken from the ancientgreece.org, and you see on the right side the golden rosettes, the golden six-petal rosettes in the Archaeological Museum of Istanbul in the Mycenaean Kingdom, 1600 before Mashiach. And you see the flower of life in there, the six-pointed star. You can see there very clearly. There's no doubt about it. One more, and this one from the Cyprus, a cup with a mythological scene, some flower of life pattern, and this in the center visible Lord Museum, Italian, Cyprus, 800 to 700 before Mashiach. Cyprus. On the right side, a stone floored with a field of interlocking circular decoration from a palace of a king, Ashurbanipal, visible in the Museum of Lorburn. Related objects are also visible in the British Museum, and thus artifact numbers, the British Museum numbers. Northern Iraq, 645. Northern Iraq, 645, and you see there perfectly the flower of life. One more from Akkadian. Herodotus mentions a tribe with a similar name as one of the 10 or 15 Persian tribes in Persis. They live in the valleys between the Susis and Persis in what is known to southwestern Iran. The southwestern Mardi is described in Arcus as one of the 4 predatory mountain peoples. What is this? Of the southwest, along with the Susians, Uxi, and Elimeans. Of these 4 nomadic groups, they were the only tribe linguistically Iranian. This took it for this place here, Iranian peoples of Iran, Pre-Islamic Encyclopedia Iranica, iranicaonline.org. So on the left, you see a silver goblet from the Museum of Lorben. On the side with the object was unreachable for visitors because of the goblet stands in a thick basement, but picture of the object description shows a full flower life pattern in the bottom, probably very much similar to the silver goblet and their side decoration of Stockholm. Unfortunately, only very little is known about the Malkhut culture, but artifacts found from the Royal Cemetery. This was found in a Royal Cemetery in Marlik, and it shows the excellence of the gold and silver metalwork. Marlik is one of the cities built in the northern Iran from the 1500 to 1100 before Mashiach. Marlik is the site of a royal cemetery, and some research you can go and find and do your own work, and then artifacts found on the site date back to the 3,000 years ago, as close to 1,000 before Mashiach. Some of the artifacts contain amazing workmanship with gold. Malik is named after the Amrat people. Interesting. So here's a cube, and also the cube from the movie of Transformers, where they expose the theme of the fallen that they also call the Supreme Spark. So if you go to one book, it's called The Sacred Geometry from Dumbalo Melchizedek. He's a shaman of high grade currently, and he's a high grade shaman. He's gotten himself into this whole system of numerology and sacred geometry. He calls that he's a worship of Metatron, that from the angel of light, the fallen angel, and extract from him the cube. The Metatron says, and this figure. So in the Metatron thing extracted from his soul, and to see here it is everything related to the 666 and the 6 points, and well, the famous Merkaba is a famous played at the Metatron from one square of with base 10 and everything like that. So mystical numbers, as you start to combine them, maybe they're given an example of the process, which is to do, but how to do the start of Metatron. This distinctive feature is one of the cubes that can be rotated in the vertical axis, and one person can push it slowly with some effort, and two or two, and more people without problems. Many people who travel to New York consider it by many turning the cube, they carry a ritual that indicates that they have arrived in the city. Sitting and falling asleep in the shade of the cube is also popular. It's also popular. So here, that cube that you can rotate is in a Chase Manhattan, and it's a monument stretched between place on the front of the Rockefeller Bank in Manhattan, the Chase. We talk about previous chapter about the Rockefellers in Manhattan. How funny, because they keep saying through this cube who will they be worshipping and who they are trying to serve. Well, the Rockefellers will already know the history, and we can see in other places, movies and technology, especially in the Apple brand. There are several movies that you can carefully see that they appear in many movies, and that they took instructed, and this speaks of these messages that talk about through the cube and a system to invoke not just demons but from the underworld and another scenes of the underworld. So you can see in here the Apple brand, one of the Discovery Science Foundation Museum in Santa Ana, California, and the Star Wars subject theme. The Hellraiser movie speaks about portrays the cube interdimensional portals and demons as they call themselves. Very interesting. So intriguing is the cutting-edge technology, especially in the electronic processors, that some suggest is one of the many more advanced intelligence technologies that have already developed, not only as a quantum computer, but a biological computer. So you can see here in the different cities and different images of down, up and down. Inside of the square, you can see the bited apple. You can see the stairs coming down from the cube figure. That is no more than getting into an interdimensional portal or some kind of a ritual. You can see the one in San Francisco as well, and you can see the other one in there. I can really check. It says San Victoria Gardens. Okay, so what we'll see here is that what they are saying is that they liked already because they're going to put it in whatever the message behind it. This image is as simple as known in the background of the famous cube of Metatron, and representation of someone's here and to saying what they're doing. So here have an illustration, and the other frame of decoration acquires greater importance as symmetrical, corresponding to unknown symbolism, a micrograph arranged in the shape of a multi-pointed star is enhanced by decorations. You see the illustration from the Leningrad Codex. It's an extraordinary example of medieval Jewish pictorial expression. So who would they really serve? We saw already 700 before Mashiach. We saw already in the time of Mashiach when they had the text on the Acts, and we see here again, almost in the medieval Jewish, keep going with this service. In the decoration of folio 476 are described, and the illustrator have composed a decoration of geometric type with numerous triangles, trapezoids, and geometrical shapes, which are inscribed with a rectangular frame with an effect harmonious and interesting to attract attention of the reader. The symbolic value of the Star of David. The parchment reaches 33.8 to 29.8 centimeters. How about that? It's pretty interesting. The 7 base arrangement has a great deal of significance in Judaism. It represents creation. This is according to the Jewish beliefs, which in 6 days a week a special Sabbath. This is itself a reflection of the fact that all the physical things in the universe exist in 3 dimensions. An example within a cube of 6 faces, while the 7 represents the inner, the spiritual dimension. The same arrangement is found in the mystical tree of life, where the lower sefirot are arranged as 6 male qualities of the 7 female quality of Malkhut. Because of this, Arizal Rabbi Isaac Luria in the 1500 to arrange this Passover Seder plate in hexagonal style, with each of the components representing the one to the other lower sefirot, with the 3 matzahs corresponding the higher sefirot, Chokhmah, Binah, and the and the plate itself on the cup of wine, paralleling the 7 and final Malkhut. So, the Pesach Seder plate, there is a debate whether the Arizal intended 2 items to be placed in a star shape or with 2 triangles, one on top of the other, which is later likely as the more closely resembles the tree of life diagram. How about that? Anybody would like to have a Seder plate for Pesach? According to this author, the tarot was the angel Metatron. He is the head of the wisdom, the snake, and it was the prophet Enoch, in whom the Bible tells us. This is according to Samuel, where the angel Metatron or Enoch left us the tarot, which is the divine wisdom, is enclosed, and it was written in the stone. He also left us the 22 letters of the Hebraic alphabet. This great master lives in the superior worlds, in the world of Alsmut, in the world of inconceivable happiness, according to Kabalah, and in the region of the Keter, in a very high Sephirah. Again, this is by Samael Aun Weor. The author of Tarot was an angel, Metatron. And again, I'm sorry I put that again. So, one of the greatest metaphysicians of the last decade is Samael Aun Weor. And by the way, he's name, she's changing his name. And Samael is another name assigned to Satan. That is one of the names that appears in the scriptures. And obviously, he preached all this science that is hidden science. And it's the same symbol that was adopted for the state of Israel. In here, there are more photos and orders and cultures and religions in different times and very old. By the way, here there's an eye of the pentagram and the hexagram. Here too appears intertwined in a figure in ancient Islam. Is also here a pair of the famous invocation too that does the prayer in the Hinduism, and a good synagogue and temples and churches. And here in the bottom left, you're gonna see what this could be. What this could be. A Masonic temple. A Masonic temple. Nothing more, nothing less than Masonic lodge. Okay, so appears in floors, very ancient and Rome and different. Here is also and the famous swastika of David image in here. So. This is the figures in Israel amulets. It's called Hamsa. The 5 fingers are supposed to represent the 5 books of Torah, and it's a symbol of protection. Could it be? Could it be a real symbol of protection? I'll throw the hand, since the Hamsa is another more than nothing else that the eye, the whole seeing nine, the whole world and the seeing whole world, and this is stones and colors incrusted into this. They're also part of this who believe in this and this kind of and the protector. Any of us already know that their protection is related to and who their protector really is. This was adopted by esoteric, mystical, Kabbalistic Judaism, and is not biblical Judaism. It's not biblical Judaism. If any of us already know that protection is related to, again, and this is who really serve. And here, who trusts those who believe in this? One more. You can see here inside these images. This is not part of the Israel. You can see fishes, you can see mysticism eye of auras, and this you can see esoteric shops, and you can find all of this. Believe it or not, and come to here is and this esoteric stores. Well, this Jing Jang, the All Seeing Eye, the cross of Tammuz. Obviously, everything of this is not part of the faith, is not part of the Bible. All right. This is another amulet or talisman used in Kabalah or obtained in Judaism. They use this as a protection, and protection, but this is not protection. This and the bottom one is the evil eye. Is the evil eye peacock feather, or the Maya expression of the Lord Krishna in Hinduism as well. See the same colors in the bottom of the feather, and the evil eye in the hanging on the pendant. Why do they have to look so similar? It's not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence. Why did the Roman high priest use it to? We're going to enter to something is called the Tetragrammaton, the Pentagrammaton, and the Adam Katmon, which is a Judeo-Christian syncretism. It's a part of what we're going to see here. It's very short, but it's very, very deep into what the obscurantism has done to this part of the Roman Catholic Church. The Pentagrammaton of Yahshua in Hebrew is a constructed form of the Hebrew name of Jesus, originally found in the works of Athanasius Kitchener or Johann Baptist Gottschedel in the 1619 in other late Renaissance esoteric sources. The Pentagrammaton or Yahshua has no support in archaeological findings, as is the Dead Sea Scrolls or inscriptions, nor in the rabbinical texts or the forms of Joshua. Scholarship generally considers the original form of Jesus to be Yeshua. Thus, not in the scriptures, you cannot find this name in any of the ancient scriptures for this name. The Pentagrammaton or fivefold is an adaptation of the Tetragrammaton, but additional shin has added to the Yud Hey Bab Hey. So it is the Yud Hey Shin Bab Hey, and it looks like that. So we talk about the image of this painter did it in there, and the interpretation of the Yud Hey Bab Hey with the shin in the middle as the Adam Katmon formed in the Pentagrammaton and represented of the Jesus and these people. Who were these people who were trying to represent this? Okay, so the Tetragrammaton, Pentagrammaton, the Adam Katmon, it was given a basic transliteration to GHSV and or all of this. There was no letter Bab or Ish in the Latin, so I and J were they not really clear distinguished as letters of the alphabet, nor were the U and the UV. So this could be in a supplies with the further vowels or pronunciability. It was coincidence that the first two letters of the consonant transcription AIS, AH, IH, VH, etc. were identical to the old HS or GHS, which is the monogram of the name of the Jesus. So the Jesuits write down there the IHS, and they like to play with the monogram of the name of the Jesus. And it's something that I found interesting into the Kabalah inscription, the way they practice into this Roman Catholic evangelical Christian churches, is how they pray and worship their God. They said they opened it like that in the Osiris lane. There's part of the Kabbalah and the inscriptions of how they should pray or meditate. The Isis morning, the Apophis rising, and the Apophis and the Osiris rising. Sorry, I found it very interesting, and I say, wow. Okay, so one more, and we're gonna get into a book which is called The Tree of Life. I'm gonna see only the glossary of it. Only the glossary of it. We're gonna see some kind of a language that we can have to take out of our Bibles and see where it comes from and why is the scripture in there. So you see there the Pentagrammaton, and you see that they use the Tetragrammaton language in there. So So we see here in images of how they supposedly make the seal on the floor, the people put in the dead to summon the dead or talking to the spirits, and the invocation to the divine entities or whatever. So the first one that we're seeing is Abano Pietro, or Peter of Abano. He's an Italian-born physician, philosopher, astrologer, the author of grimoire known as the Heptameron, or magical elements, which emphasize the practical magic concerned with the spirits, the elements, and the angels of various hours of the day. Abano Pietro is from 1200s to the 1300s. Remember that. Buried Francis self-described study of chemistry, metaphysics, and natural and occult philosophy. The metaphysics and the occult philosophy. He published the Magus of Celestial Intelligentsia in 1801. The material covered in Magus was largely taken from Agrippa's The Three Books of Occult Philosophy in the 1500s. 1500s again. Bennett Alam from 1872 to 1923 adapted the original Golden Dawn. This is one of the most occultist societies today known, whose second order motto was Lehi Hour, let there be light, he wrote, and Liber Isafel, an invocation of thought, and a ritual for the evocation until visible appearance of the great spirit of whatever is written. For a time, Bennett, that was friend of the teacher of Alice Crowley in 1900s. He moved to the Ceylon and studied Buddhism. Bennett entered the Buddhist monastery and became Bhikkhu Anandametta. A bit more esotericism is the occult science of the sacred or inner science. That's what they understand in the esoteric and the occultist sciences. Esotericism is the occult science, and is the sacred or the inner science study. In the Eucharist and the Church, the central sacrament of worship of many Christian churches, which is instituted in the Last Supper, in which bread and wine representing the body of the blood of Jesus Christ are consecrated and consumed. Communion. In the Golden Dawn, a similar rite is called the mystic repast of Feast of Osiris is performed. The mystic repast of Feast of Osiris. Remember that the god of the sun performed. Whatever initiatives partake of the four elements said represent the reconstituted body of Osiris. Evocation, a ritual designed to manifest or to evoke a spiritual entity from an invisible realms into the magician's shield for awareness or visible appearance, whether physically or astral, can often involve invoking a spirit into a triangle of art which lies outside of the protective magical circle, remember the seal of Solomon, surrounding the magician, sometimes calling summoning spirits. See evoke. When you call evoke from Latin evocare, to call, from a spiritual force of entity, and a spiritual force of entity, according from some traditions, this means calling forth a force from outside of the physique. So when you saw this relation to any kind of a relations into the Judaism, the Judeo-Christian religions, when they say invoking or calling, and the way that they call their entities is something really, really dark. Fourth book of Occult Philosophy, a magical text published in 1567 from and attributed to Agrippa. The real author is often referred to Pseudo-Agrippa. Gematria, part of the literal Kabalah, that segment of Kabalah which interprets the codes of the Hebrew words in mystical texts. Gematria is from the Hebrew numerology that use the numerical values of letters in the Hebrew alphabet. Names of the words are converted into numbers in order to find hidden meanings. Words which have the same numerical value are taught the same importance and significance of relationship. Not everything that we interpreted in Torah is related to Gematria. Noti Seuton, Greek for known dead self. It's a maxim inscribed above the door of the temple of Apollo of Delphi that implies knowledge of one relationship with a divine cosmos. Knowing yourself. If you see anything into it's known today into psychology and sociology, that you have to know yourself first in order to love the others, well, it's meaning exactly the contrary what Yeshua told us to do, that is, love the others as you love yourself. You don't start loving yourself first, then the others. It's actually exactly the contrary. It's called egocentrism. God or deities, powerful immortal beings in high rank in the spiritual hierarchies. They command lesser spirits and have been worshipped by humans for centuries. The various celestial and terrestrial gods are often seen in specific portions and expressions for the transcendent God. It's something that we really see in the Hinduism. Grimoire. Something we're going to see some of the footage, some grimoires from the French word of grammar, a magical text, a medieval book containing magical procedures or spells for summoning spirits. The Oxford English Dictionary cites Arthur Edward Wayne is the first source of the usage of the word. Invisibility, the magical act of withdrawing force mysterious environment in such a way in order for people to fail notice a magician's presence or immediately forget that they have seen the magician. Imagine these forces. Invocation, a ritual of portion of a ritual designed to establish inner communication with a higher spiritual entity. The magician allows a higher being to use a physical body as a vehicle for communication with the physical world. A potent prayer used to invoke a deity. Invoke, so, is to call a spiritual entity, to call the power or presence of higher spiritual entity into psyche. Again, I just cannot stop thinking into these churches that they just keep praying very strongly, emotionally into these things. What they will be calling Hermetic of the rating of Hermes Trismegistus, or the words ascribed to him, having to do with the occult sciences, especially alchemy, astrology, and magic deriving from Western sources, Egyptian, Judeo-Christian, and Greco-Roman. Judeo-Christian and Greco-Roman. They know where they got from. Iamblichus, a Neoplatonic philosopher for the 4th century in our era, in the Mashiach era, he was the first Neoplatonist to dislodge the Plinian's intellectual mysticism in favor to theurgy or a theology that included all the mysterious rituals, myths, and deities of syncretism and paganism. Most of his writings has been lost, but his teachings can be found in the works of Proclus. His works include the Mysteries, theological principles of arithmetic, and on the Pythagorean life. Ambiclus was known as the divine. Of course, he had to call himself divine, or the inspired. The Emperor Julian, considering him as the intellectual equivalent of Plato. The works of Ambicus were very important in later development of ceremonial magic, especially for the theologians. Western occultism, the magic and mysticism in Europe and the Western world is descended from Mesopotamia, Egypt, Greece, and Rome. The Western tradition also includes Jewish, Arabic, indigenous European magic, and geographic territory is approximately equal to the area covered by the Christianity. Western occultism. White magic is performed by good purposes, often invoking beneficent entities. Ceremonial magic performed by spiritual growth. Crazy. Westcott Y1, 1843 and in 1925, primary founder of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, established in 1888 of the Hermetic Society, whose members are taught by principles of occult science and the magic of Hermes. His order mottos were Sapir Aude, dare or to be wise, and non omnis moriar, I shall not wholly die. Author of Introduction to the Study of the Kabalah and Numbers, their occult power and mystic virtues. Westcott also compiled the publish of the Hermetic text with the Colactenia Hermetica. And the last one, but not the least, Yeshua, also called the Pentagrammaton, a Greek word which means 5-letter name. This refers to the Tetragrammaton, or 4-letter name, Yud-He-Bab-He, which letter Shin is placed in the center of the name. Those 4 elements, Yud-He-Bab-He, 5, water, air, and earth, are completed, crowned, and governed by the 5th spirit. Pentagrammaton, significance of the Pentagrammaton is exposed led by Johannes Rich in his book De Verbo Mirifico, or Concerning the Miracles World. So here I have some books where I have some grimoires, exposition of this one is the Euclideon, and is attributed to Carlo Magno, and you can see that the Pentagrammaton in there in his books. I have the next one. It's the grimoire of Cornelius and the Clavicles of Solomon, and you see the Pentacle of Solomon as the pentagram and the hexagramma in there. Very clear what these guys have in these books, why they have that. The book of the Occult Philosophy, in general, it refers to a mode of philosophical thought that seeks metaphysical truth hidden, occult behind the surfaces on the natural, celestial, and divine worlds. Because its practitioners use magical means, it seeks the truths. So in this book, the other one's the Occult Philosophy, book number 3 is by Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa, Study of the Occult Philosophy, acknowledged as the significant contributions on the Renaissance. Philosophical discussion concerns the powers of ritual magic, its relationship with religion. The first book was printed in 1531 on Paris, Cologne, and Antwerp, while the full 3 volumes first appeared in Cologne in 1533. Paris. We know that about the history and Revelations, what it talks about. Okay. And the worst of all, why is it chosen to the symbol of Israel? God therefore your souls very much, for you did not see any figure on the day that the Eternal spoke with you from the midst of the fire. Deuteronomy 4:15. We read that again, and so this symbol of Israel is in which is already, and we've seen, and it says, and it tells us to keep our souls very much. No figure we saw. And this is associated with a faith. It's the most dark symbol concentrated in geometry and in what the Bible represents as the mark of the beast in the famous 666 symbol. Curiously, and this is why pagan cultures adopt it. Sacred geometry has 60 degrees and in each single corner. See, the true triangle that met in the union, the two words have of fallen beings and that men. In the Greek mythology, one is called Uranus, which represents heaven, of Gaia, or Hea, which is earth, and the other culture's mother earth. They spawn the 12 titans. In Sumerian, one is Anu and the other one is Antu, who begets Enlil and Enki. Very curious. This representation of the union of these two faces, this geographic representation is one of the presents the cube as well. This is the image associated with the pagan cultures and the main deity. The numbers of this branding are strategic, and the darkest, the symbol concentrates the geometry that the Bible represents the mark of the beast, as we read again. The strangest thing is that it could represent the mark of the beast that represents in Revelations, which is 666. Okay, I'm going to read extract from a historian, Jewish historian, that in his investigation into the Seal of Solomon or the Star of David, I will see his conclusions and reach that that he reached, and I will see something very interesting is done by him. So Professor Sholem, one of the greatest Jewish scholars in our time, is a Jewish researcher of Kabalah and mysticism, and one of the founders of the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. Not weird. Conducted a 50-year study on the history of the Star of David. He published a brief summary of the study in 1949. Shortly after the symbol was chosen to appear on the national flag of the new state. Also remember that it was the seal adopted by the Rothschilds, who are proxies to the protectors of Israel Zionism. Now we understand the professor is a researcher of the old Kabbalistic system of magic. One of the reasons the religious Pharisees and Sadducees hated Yeshua so vehemently and considered to have Romans to kill him, even though they knew he was a prophesied Messiah, was because we're Lucifer worshippers. That is why Yeshua told them, "You, Father, is the devil," because it happens that the Pharisees and Sadducees were practitioners of the mysticism and oral tradition, which has codified and written in the 12th century, and it was called Kabalah. Of course, it makes perfect sense that the use of the hexagram and the national symbol of Israel came out of the ancient Kabalah practice. Since Professor Sholem is a Kabalah researcher, he would have connect understanding of the origins of the hexagram. So in this article, Professor Sholem said that the Magen David is not a Jewish symbol and therefore is not a symbol of Judaism. Well-meaning Israelites just don't want to hear the common symbol of Israel, that the hexagram printed in the blue on the white background, the national flag, is satanic. They prefer to hear that hexagram has always been the symbol of ancient Israel. Such as a lie makes the current hexagram more easily accepted. But now this modern Israeli scholar, a Kabbalist at that, reveals that the hexagram was definitively not the symbol of ancient Israel, but was invented and the national symbol in the 19th century. Furthermore, this modern scholar revealed that the first use of the hexagram as a national symbol occurred exactly on the first Zionist conference in 1898 in Basel, Switzerland.
Siendo primeramente santificados en él, somos como él en este mundo real, transformados a su imagen hermosa. Por la presión de su alito somos vida gloriosa.